Johnny, ever gonna hear the stop and toll down on the bayou? Trying to play with the king, trying to play with the king, sing a story again. Down on the bayou, trying to play with the king, trying to play with the king, sing a story again. Down on the bayou. Girl, daddy don't beat the girl like it's a sin. The brother can't watch him beat that dog out again. So late one night, cooking up with a couple of friends. Swears his daddy never gonna see another day. Down on the bayou, trying to play with the king, trying to play with the king, say my story again. Down on the bayou, trying to play with the king. The road, and it's a damn shame. Oh, it's a shame to lose your way running wild. Oh, it's a shame to lose the light that shines from you. It's a shame to lose your way as a child. Shame, damn shame. Money on the bed, but you ain't got the dough. You sold your soul just to make it overload. No empty money gonna keep you from getting yours. No judge or jury ever gonna hear your thought red told. Down on the bayou, trying to play with the king, trying to play with the king, sing a story again. Down on the bayou, trying to play with the king, trying to play with the king, trying to play with the king. Down on the
a different way. All right. So thank you guys for joining the fall preview show. I don't know what's going on, but maybe because the Bayou lovers are trying to cancel me here, I am having issues using my regular mic. Let's see if we can try to fix this. But thank you guys for joining the stream. All right, so I'm going to bring on our guests here. We have a couple fans that are going to be heading out to the shows for 2023 fall tour, and we want to have them give their hopes, their dreams, and their thoughts on this upcoming tour. All right, so let's go ahead and bring on our first set of guests. I'll be hanging out with them at Mohegan for a couple shows. They're coming down from Wisconsin. Let's give it up for Jessica and Wayne. How you guys doing?
Good. How about
Hi.
yourself?
I'm doing well. And next up, it's my boy from Tennessee. He just saw two last night, the University of Tennessee, and he's going to be heading out to some D&B shows just east of there for Seville, amongst other shows. Let's give it up for John Dix.
Hello.
How's it going, John?
It's going well. Thank you for having me on this evening.
Glad to have you on. And we also have our friend from the Carolinas, and he covers GA for shows as well. And he's going to be audio only, but he wanted to join this stream. Let's give it up for Kumi D&B. Kumi, can you hear us? All right. All right, so let's start off with Jessica and Wayne. What made you guys come to this show? I mean, the show's in Uncasville when you guys live in Wisconsin.
There's not a show in Wisconsin.
We wanted to see you again, Marcus.
It was you.
So this is your second trip to New England in this year. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what shows did you go to in the summer?
Started at the Woodlands. I went just because of a work schedule coincidence got me right there for that show. And then Milwaukee, 2 nights at Deer Creek, 2 nights in Chicago, and then Guilford. Is that all of them? Yeah.
So you finish off your tour in the summer in Guilford. You come back to Connecticut here. What are you looking forward to possibly seeing for this fall tour?
Everything.
Some old stuff.
Gotcha.
I'll back you up. Christmas song.
Christmas song, really?
Yeah, why not?
Well, we'll probably see a Bayou. I know you're going to be excited about that.
Easy.
As long as it ain't Mohegan.
I'm getting intel that I want to see The Last Stop and I want to see Aaron Meyer. Who knew?
The Last Stop, yeah. So it was played a couple years ago at MSG for the fall tour then.
Mercy. I would take Loving Wings. I'd like 2 sets. One a little slower, one a little more exciting, fast paced, high energy.
Okay. So let's go to John. John, what are you looking forward to for this DMB 2023 fall tour?
Just seeing friends, just hanging out, having a good time, taking time off work, traveling.
So no expectations for any liberations, any deep cuts, any newer songs that you saw this summer?
No, I think I saw everything pretty much this summer. I did 13 shows this summer. Um, but you know me by now. You know I'm not going to complain about a show. You know I'm not going to go in with unreasonable expectations just to disappoint myself. If I get to see two or three friends, get some good jams, hang out, I'm good, man. Like I don't go to D&B shows, to chase songs or hear things I've never heard before. That was like John in like 2010 or 2005. But 2023, John, he's evolved. He just goes to have a good time now. Because you just set yourself up for failure when you go to all these shows, especially when you go as many as I do, and you have all these unreasonable expectations.
And that's a great way to look at it, is when you have no expectations and you just sit there to enjoy the music, you won't be let down for the most part.
No, not at all.
Now,
And
this year, there were a lot of great things in the summer tour.
phenomenal tour.
And so, with that, Jessica and Wayne, are you concerned that these shows may not live up to that level? Are you thinking this fun time of exploration for the band will continue? What are your thoughts of the fall tour shows coming off an amazing summer tour?
I mean, honestly, I think I agree with John. Like, getting to be at a show, be with your friends, maybe travel somewhere new. Um, it's not disappointing to me. Um, I would love to see, there's definitely some songs I'd love to see, but it's not going to make or break for me. Um, I'm just glad to be in the room.
Same.
Definitely. Give me one moment. Hold on, let's see. And so we're talking about fall tour 2023. What are you hoping for?
I'm hoping for a lot. I guess we're going to see if the summer tour was a one-time thing or if the band's going to keep going on a tear like they have been. It's going to be interesting to see if we have a more like cookie cutter album kind of tour. Like what kind of we expected from the summer tour, or if we'll see some deep cuts, some extended jams, something different. Obviously I'd like to see songs like Blackjack or Crazy Easy or Kit Kat Jam come back, but we'll see what happens. I remember like last fall tour being kind of more mainstream. Like I don't remember a lot of like liberations or anything like that happening last fall. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, I'm kind of with John though. I'm excited to see the band no matter what. But you always have this kind of hope that we'll have something special in a set too. So I'm just looking forward to. I'm going to Savannah and Greenville only, so I'm hopefully like the first two shows will be pretty hype.
Yeah, and we'll be talking about tour openers later in this stream with Henry, and we'll probably have Zach stick on for that. But we're going to look at the history of that. But just to give you guys a preview, some of the fall tour openers in recent tours have been amazing. We've seen some things come back. There may have been, in my opinion, some summers tours 2018. It was tough for them to find their sound after losing a vital part, that violin. And even if you look at 2012 and you look at some of the other tours, the fall tours, you see some stuff come in that even people that summer didn't get at SPAC or Alpine or the Gorge. So that's definitely something special. Now, many of you guys are going to be traveling. So let's start off with you, Justin Wayne. How far is this trek for you to Uncasville from Wisconsin?
About a 4-hour flight.
Okay, so 4-hour flight.
We're flying this
We
time.
cannot do the drive. We don't have time.
I don't blame you. And speaking of fall tours, there are stories of many fans throughout the last couple of decades getting caught in snowstorms. We have a new live track that just came out from Cleveland. And when I posted kind of my thoughts on the set list, some fans did post some stories about leaving that show in the snow. So that's one of the things that you do see, is that, it's not the beautiful summer drives you get Many people are going to be flying. John, how far are your treks to the shows you're going to?
Savannah's like a 50-minute flight, and then I'm gonna trek back home because I got to work the next day. And then the following day, I'm gonna get in the car and drive 8 hours to Seaville, and then I'll come back on Sunday, and then I'll hop on a plane that Thursday or that Friday morning back to MSG, which is like another hour and a half flight here from Nashville. So it's a lot of traveling because I don't have any time off from work, so I got to go to work and then like finagle my time and then go to shows like after work. So it's kind of crazy what I'm doing here.
And that's actually a big thing for why Mohegan there's a lot of tickets up now, people running out of time off, people not being able to swing it, and also the midweek shows here for Savannah, for Greenville. I've just been seeing some stories there about people that just they thought they could do it for the weekdays, but they're just saying, listen, we'll call those a loss. We'll fly into Seville, we'll fly into NYC. Kumi, what about you? What are your drives? What's your distance to Greenville and to Savannah for you?
Savannah's going to be about a 4-hour drive, and then Greenville is about 4 hours from Savannah. It's about 2 hours from here, so it'd be closer if I was coming back here first, but I'm going to go straight from Savannah to Greenville. So 4 hours each won't be too bad. It'll be a nice, not typically scenic, but it'll be a nice drive. Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad.
Gotcha. And let's go around the room. Just one, if you had to pick one song, I know people, you have different expectations, but if you could pick one song that you could hear for this fall tour, let's start with you, Kumi.
Well, I love the song JTR. That's like a song that I would love to see, obviously, but one I've been chasing for a long time that I barely miss, like a lot. Like I missed it because they crossed it off in Atlanta last year. I missed it by one day in Charleston because I only went to 1 out of 2 of the nights. It's Shotgun. So if I see Shotgun, I'll be very happy.
Listen, I had my first Shotgun this year after 40, I think it was 48 shows. I finally got it. And I really wish that song got to more places. It has eluded so many fans. I hope you get it. John, what's one song you want to hear for the fall tour?
Crash Into Me. It's been a song that I haven't heard in a long time live for some odd reason. They just don't play it that much anymore. And I feel like it's a realistic expectation type song that you could hear. And plus, one of my good friends, he and I share that song. Like, it's like our song. And so Crash Into Me is probably like the song. Because I don't think I've heard it since maybe Blossom 16. The last time I heard it live. And, I go to like 15 shows a year.
Yeah.
And I haven't gotten it since like 2016, I think, just because they just don't play it anymore. I don't know what's going on.
Listen, just come up to the Northeast. Crash Into Me has been played a bunch of times as kind of the rare play for that tour up here. But that's a very interesting stat for you for all the shows you go to.
Yeah, just keep missing me.
Especially over the last 3 or 4 years where we've been going to shows. You cover a lot of my tracks and then other friends' tracks, and then you're in these shows middle of the week that we hit you up for, that you're one of the only people we could talk to from a group of friends, so about how the show went. So yeah, that's very interesting. Let's go with ladies first. So Jessica, what's the song you want?
American Baby intro.
Good one. That's a good one.
And just to give you guys some backstory, Jessica and Wayne, they came up to Guilford and I met them there. They literally finished the tour the show before it debuted and was liberated, and they said, hey, we have 2 choices: try to fight people for SPAC seats or go to Guilford and then make it a weekend. They saw a couple other acts. I know what the Revivalists and the Head and the Heart. They went, so they stayed at Guilford and went to 3 shows. And it's
4. We stayed.
4
we saw Counting Crows too.
Oh yeah, Counting Crows. Yeah. So the 2 DMB, Counting Crows and Head in the Heart, and the Revivalists. So listen, they had a great time. They're going back home thinking, hey, we really maximized our dollar by going to the Guilford shows, going to Counting Crows, and going to see. Obviously, again, I love the Head and Heart, and I love the Revivalists. I've seen them a couple of times each. But then they're at home listening to Sirius XM DMB Radio Channel 30, and the next show has ABI. So hopefully you guys get it. If not, I'll play it for you. I got my baritone guitar behind me. I'll just play it. Wayne,
I'm gonna take you up on that.
Wayne, what's a
Better
song?
throw that in the car.
Wayne, what's a song you want?
Oh, Bayou. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I have to go with our wedding song, which is "I'll Back You Up." Jessica was in Colorado when they played it, and she FaceTimed me, but it'd mean more to me if we were together and they played it.
Right. She's like, I got it. You can't back me up.
I'm wearing my lucky "I'll back you up" bracelet.
Awesome. And John, that's a song that John had been chasing for a bit, just a special song to him. For just
I
different
wasn't
reasons.
chasing that.
I thought you were.
I mean, I was chasing it. I mean, I got it at my first show, I think.
Well, yeah, I know you had gotten it, but you wanted it like, was it
I wanted
last
to
year?
get it. Yeah, I haven't gotten
Okay.
it since like I think
Yeah.
2018. I think I got it. I'm not sure what year.
Okay. So, but yeah, so that definitely, and to me, honestly, one of the best. I know it's controversial, is it a love song or not? But like, give me "I'll Back You Up" over, like, I know people, you and me. Nah, "I'll Back You Up." I think it's just it's a more powerful song, even though obviously Dave didn't back up that girl. He found Ashley and they got married. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
The song is whatever you want it to be.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
Better Man by Pearl Jam. Is it about domestic abuse or is it about finding the best man for you?
Yeah, no, that's true. And I will to me, again, almost I'm about to hit that year mark in marriage. Got to auto renew. But to me, "I'll Back You Up" is so much more of an important thing this early in the game for the marriage. And like you and me, we can do anything. Listen, rent is high. Well, actually, we own this kind. But anyway, the property taxes are high, the car taxes are high. We can't do anything. Okay. That's not the way I look at the world. We're gonna teach the kids to fight. No, we have to make sure we protect our kids from these idiots out here. Okay. Right? When we, and I'll see what happens with little Conserviz Jr. if that ever Lord willing, Conserviz Jr. comes out. I ain't gonna teach him to fly. I'm gonna teach him how to find a good career and beat out this AI. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Thank you guys for being on. I appreciate it. We're gonna head off to Zach. But if you guys can exit as I kick you off, so Zach can come in, and then because there's so many people in this whole streaming thing, the streaming thing's like, oh, hey, you got too many people. So if y'all want to donate it, I can pay for premium. Not I'm playing. I'm kidding, guys. But thank you guys for coming on. Safe travels to the
Thank you.
shows you're going to.
See you soon.
See you in Savannah.
All right.
See y'all.
All right, so we're gonna get them all off, and thank you again for bearing with me these technical difficulties. I have no idea what's going on with my mic at all. Legitimately changed XLRs, reset the box that this plugs into, but I'm glad that you guys can hear me now. What we're gonna do now is bring in our buddy Zach. He is more than just a taper, but I mean that's what he does so much for this community in so many different ways. He helps out, just to help out outside of his regular 9-to-5 job. And you don't hear about a lot of the stuff. You don't see a lot of the stuff, but he is in so many different groups and forums and taping other shows too amongst that. But let's bring on Zach to talk some DMB, see what he's got up his sleeve to share with us. How's it going, Zach?
Happy Saturday, Marcus. How we doing?
I'm trying. I don't know. I feel like someone who really likes Bayou, who is upset that I don't like every DMB song, like hacked me, and my mic doesn't work. My voice, I don't have a voice for the stream, but
well, listen, you're just having technical difficulties, just like everybody happened to have last night at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So you know what? You're doing fine.
Yeah. Did you watch that, by the way?
I did, and I gotta say, it was, first off, Dave's speech was really cool, and I mean, everyone knew he was going to be playing "Funny How Time Slips Away," but I was curious if you caught who did the introduction for Kate Bush, which just completely caught me by surprise.
No, I didn't watch it. I have Disney Plus, but I didn't watch it.
They had Big Boy induct her.
Oh, that makes sense. Listen, Big Boy guested with Goose last year.
I know, and like, granted, he did a really good job on her induction, did a really nice speech, But he even flat out said, he's like, let me ask y'all, like, why is Big Boy inducting Kate Bush into the Hall of Fame? And everyone's like, I don't know, man. You could have gotten David Gilmour or anyone else, but I guess we're doing Big Boy.
Yeah, man, he's showing his versatility for sure. So what's on your mind now, and what shows are you going to for this fall tour?
So I'm actually going to be doing the full run. So I'm going to be doing everything. I'm going to be doing Savannah. I'm going to be doing Granville. I'll be at both nights of Seaville, both nights of Mohegan, and closing it out over at MSG. And going to be uh, putting a nice little finishing note on Dave for the U.S. for this year and getting ready for South Africa.
So you're going to South Africa too.
Mm-hmm.
So you just wow. So this is gonna be you're literally just following the band around for the rest of the year. So how did you because we're talking logistics, like how did you kind of get to this point where you're like, hey, I can do this, I can take time away from my regular, job and things like that.
So I'm very fortunate with my day job. I have a lot of flexibility in terms of time. I had stuff that I could bank, and the way that I did a little bit of creative scheduling. I had to burn a little bit of time for the first leg, but when it comes to the local shows, I can commute back and forth. Like I'll be doing Mohegan on what is it, Monday, Tuesday, or
Yep.
whatever, and then I'll be doing work locally Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, obviously, and then back on Sunday. So I have a lot of flexibility with the job, which is nice.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits of being in the tri-state area is you have 4 shows. If you're in Connecticut, if you're in New York, New Jersey, you have 4 shows that you can drive to. It may be painful. There may be some bad drivers out there. There could be snow and ice, but there's
It's
4
way too much.
shows
It's
that are
way too
close.
much driving on 95. It's way too much
Yes,
driving on
and
95.
the tolls will get you there as well. But there's 4 shows right there that are just in close proximity. So it's just a matter of can you get down to the Carolinas and in Georgia, and then can you get to Seaville, which I think Seaville is kind of a big one for a lot of fans to go to, even beyond MSG. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact the MSG experience is you have to pay for a hotel. That's going to be expensive. You have tickets that are very expensive, even now with some trades being up there on cash or trade. The flip side is Seaville cash or trade. I mean, you can get in the door without worry, and you could literally still check cash or trade the day before. There's going to be an upper bare minimum, and there's going to be a lot of lowers that pop up last minute. Friends backing up, even people just saying, "Hey, this I can't do it," right before the free cancellation periods end. People tickets are going to pop up.
Definitely. And Seaville is always one of those where people get really excited to go and see the band. I know I was there for the last ones in 2018, and it's really nice to see how the local Charlottesville community really welcomes in Dave and welcomes in all his friends. And there's a different atmosphere to those kind of shows. It was really cool to see, and especially with a lot of stuff going on around there, including and I'm definitely going to plug this. If you're going into Seaville and you have the time to get there early, you're definitely going to want to check out Joe Lawler's gig that he's playing at the Jefferson Theater the night before. He's got some great guests coming in, including he just announced a special keyboard, a special appearance by a keyboardist that was an interim. He has a DMB link because back in '93, I think, when Peter Greiser said he was done, he didn't want to play with the band anymore. They brought in an interim keyboard player for a couple of shows, and it happens to be this gentleman. I can't remember his last name. It starts with a W off the top of my head, but Seaville, especially with all of its roots that DMB has, it's well worth the go. And Joe is an incredible guitarist. So is Kristen. They both do some phenomenal work. I would highly suggest anybody go.
Yeah, and they just were on some of the select shows for Dave and Tim's tour. Tim Reynolds solo or TR3, right?
Yeah.
TR3 was playing some shows in the Carolinas. They were there. So that's
Well,
cool.
Joe's also played with Kristen down in Mexico the past couple of times. I think that
Oh, right.
he's played pool sets with Kristen for like the past 2 or 3 years, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you've been there, but I've seen some videos. We have a couple of other special while we're talking about guests, like after parties. Let me see if we can find Louis Cato because he's gonna have an after party. I can't, unfortunately, because I got to take the train home. I can't make it, but he is going to be there. Let's see if we can find. Here it is. So Ari is going to be doing a DJ set. I'm sure that's going to be right after the show at Hill Country Live, and then at some point, Louis Cato will come on with some friends of his. It's a 5-minute walk from MSG Hill Country Live. Also, before the show, the pod that Jane likes will have a special live podcast with Ari from 4 to 6 p.m. there. So if you're in NYC, Hill Country Live is going to be there, have some events. And then anything, I know New York City is right there for you. Anything you want to say about Louis Cato and some of the things that he's going to be doing here?
I mean, Louis Cato is an absolutely incredible musician, top to bottom. Um, I wasn't too familiar with his work prior to when he guested last year during the last fall tour at MSG. But I came to seek out a lot more of his music, and he's just an incredible musician, top to bottom. So I would highly recommend going there. And Ari's a friend of the show. Ari does some great stuff. I'd be really stoked to see anybody there for those. And also, I forgot John Dirth, who has really deep ties to Dave. He did a bunch of arranging for during the Before These Crowded Streets in terms of other stuff for horns. He will be doing a show in Richmond the night before on Thursday, like right around when Joe's show is. I think that it's a late night show, so I would definitely recommend going to see that if you're local to it again.
Awesome. And that may be a great trek for some fans from points north of Seville or northeast of Seville. If you're driving down 95, stop in Richmond, see John Dirth. He was also
Oh no, not Richmond. He's playing in Seville. He's playing in Seville.
Oh, Seville. Okay, Seville. Yeah. Well, hey, still, hey, had keep going to Seville. And he was there in 2018. I know John Dix, who was just on, had saw him, and I believe Butch was it. They were at a place after the and I've never been to Seville, so I'm not familiar. But they were playing, or either they at a place after one of the shows. So
Right. I
definitely
think
gonna be
Butch
some
still I
things.
believe Butch still plays pretty regularly in the club scene down there. I know John 100% does play locally in some of the jazz clubs down there. But John has guested with the band a good dozen times
Yeah.
live over the past, 20 something years, but he has been integral to the Seville scene, and you guys should definitely go and see him if you get the chance. He's an incredible musician.
Definitely. And then I want to look up Tailgate Caravan. Now, the members of Tailgate Caravan originally were based, well, a couple of the members, Kevin and his wife, they are in South Carolina now, not too far from. Let's see. I don't know if it's here. They don't have it here. Let me see if I can find it on Facebook just to give the details. But Tailgate Caravan, they do tailgates to raise money for various causes. The Matt Wildley kind of foundation with the love signs, and then they do a lot of stuff for NAMI, which is really big for mental health. And let me see if I can find this here. But they're going to be doing something at the Savannah show, and they're still just follow Tailgate Caravan on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. But they're going to be doing some things down there. And in one of the let's see, I'll try to put it in the next on social media. Let's see, we are all right. And Christine, happy birthday to Christine Rick, who is one of the people that's going to be down there in with Kevin for Savannah. But I'll try to post that on social media closer. I know this is coming up this upcoming week, but I don't see it now. It may have been something they're still in the works in, and maybe I saw it through like maybe the Facebook page. But definitely a great way to tailgate for a cause. They do raise funds for various causes for good. And that's just an exceptional thing. They were on GMA3. They were featured on there for their work. Anything else you want to talk about as far as this upcoming tour, your expectations?
Well, I mean, we've had fall tours now for the past 2 years. So we had the 2021 tour, the 22 tour, and now we're coming into 2023. 2021's tour was fairly solid from my recollection. Not a lot of huge complaints. I know that last year's fall tour was fairly divisive on a lot of people, but there were a lot of factors that really went into that. So I know that last year was not everyone's particular favorite, but I do firmly believe that the band just came off arguably one of the best second half summer tours they've done in well over a decade. I mean, July 2023 will firmly go down in DMB history as some of the best shows that they've played in the post Groove Gux area and probably even before that. I think that, the band is energized and they're ready to go. I'd be curious to see if we see some pullover from some of the stuff that came out towards the later end and in August, especially one I'm curious to see is if the East Coast finally gets Spoon in a full band arrangement for the first time in 10 years. Because I believe, and Henry could quote me on this, I believe the last time that the East Coast proper has seen a full band Spoon was 2013 in Bristow. I think that's right. I want to say it was during the encore. Um, and I think that there's a real good chance that we get that somewhere along this tour. Maybe we get a lib or two. I don't know. But with the way that this tour is structured, significantly different from 2022, where it was just one stop, kind of trekking from the West Coast all the way back to the East Coast. I think that you'll see a lot more of a push from the band to just kind of say, okay, we've got 2 weeks. We've got, essentially 5 places we're playing. We've got 2 warm-up gigs, which are Greenville and Savannah. And then we've got 3 big venues that seem to have popped off in their history. I think that we get a really good, strong fall tour. And I think everyone should be leaving pretty happy.
Yeah, and that 2013 year was a pivotal year for me because I got Spoon in Hartford night 2. So this is my second year ever going to D&B shows. I had been a fan since around 05. And to get Spoon, that was my 4th show. And to have, like that same weekend, Dreaming Tree and some other stuff, that's a weekend where you get some. And Henry says 7/27/13 in Bristol was the last East Coast Spoon. Even so, like you just mentioned, this tour was so great that I honestly, I have no expectation. Well, I got that shotgun and at SPAC, and even take away that shotgun, right? The American Baby intros were spread aplenty this summer. A lot of these songs, Spoon got to the West Coast. Yeah, they didn't get Cha Cha, but they got Spoon. So people, different regions got everything. I do hope, and my hope is, I know they're starting off in the Carolinas and Georgia, or Georgia then Carolinas, but I do hope that those fans who maybe went to, like Kumi, who went to those southeastern shows, get some of the things that Wilmington missed. I know Atlanta got a pretty good show, but I think there are so many great fans that went to Charleston, that went to Wilmington, and they missed out on some of the great things in July. So I do hope that they get some good stuff.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, I personally split the tour up pretty much down the middle, from everything. Look, the shows that were done through May and June were of a certain caliber. They were pretty typical to what we would expect from like a Dave album tour. I don't think that I'm pretty off base with that. But those July shows and those West Coast shows were a different beast entirely. It was as though something clicked with the band and it just brought it to a whole different level. So I really do hope that those, the fans that will be down there for Greenville and for Savannah will really push through and get some really cool stuff. I mean, if I also remember correctly, I believe that this is the first time that Dave has come to that particular Greenville venue since 2001. I think it was when I was kind of looking. it was during an arena tour, either in spring or fall of 2001. So I think that, I think that definitely we'll see some rust kicked off for Savannah and Greenville, but especially for the fans that are going to Seville, the fans that are going to Mohegan, and definitely for MSG, we're in for some really good shows.
Yeah, and it's always funny because this band has such an identity and in its rise and its popular times with the East Coast, but a lot of the 91, 92 fans went to schools in North Carolina and in Georgia and in Alabama. They were playing frat parties and various smaller venues in that cusp of Appalachia and then the deep south. So even though they haven't been back since 5201 to Greenville, even though well, Georgia's always held down DMB. I'll say that. Even this past tour, Alpharetta was one of the hardest tickets. But there's a lot of fans that I hope that there's a lot of fans that maybe saw this band in their early days that maybe is saying, hey, I'll stop by. I'll make the trek to Seville. I'll make the trek to Greenville and go. And they'll be able to see what this band's doing. What I want to do now, I want to keep you on, Zach. I want to bring in Henry, and we're gonna run through a PowerPoint. And again, feel free to bring in your insight as well. Henry, how you doing?
Hey guys, how's it going? Good to see y'all.
Yeah,
Hey, Henry.
for those of y'all know, Henry is one of the people that runs the DMB Almanac, and we wanted to bring him in to talk about the fall tour and how it compares to previous fall tours and how they compare to some of the summers that preceded them that year. And let me go ahead. I'm going to bring this PowerPoint up here. Let me just make sure. All right, there we go. And let's just do this because that way everyone can see it. And so there may be some spelling errors. I didn't. I put this together so quick, but we want to look at 2012 to present. We want to see how these fall/winter tours compare to the summer shows earlier in that year. And we'll just look at the international tours from some of the fall runs, but we're going to focus more on the US tours. I did exclude 2021. We'll take a look at that after on the Almanac, but just because it was like a summer fall hybrid and it was kind of, it just was a little different. But stay tuned. We'll look at that. So first, we're going to look at the 2012 winter tour. Now, I don't know if this grinds your guys' gears, and I'll let you answer. Most of the shows were in technically what we call fall, but my shirt says winter tour. And this was my first winter. I mean, this is the first year I saw DMV. So I was like, it's not a winter tour, it's a fall tour. What do you got? What do you think, Zach? Do you like like when they do this?
No, I remember that was a little annoying, but also these shows were relatively late for fall. 'Cause if I remember correctly, wasn't Izod like the last week in November for 2012?
So we have it here, 11/30, 2012. And I mean, these were pushing towards as close to Christmas as we've gotten in this last decade for the US shows fall tour. This is the closest. Henry, what about you? Does that frustrate you? I know you guys labeled it the fall tour, which I agree with.
I mean, the rest of the world says that winter starts on December 21st. So, like, if you want to call it winter, it should be sometime between December 21st and March 21st ish. So, like, on the Almanac, we call the winter tour the stuff at the beginning of the year, and the fall tour the stuff at the end of the year, because that is what fall is. I don't know. I don't know how else to call it. I mean, I guess it just has the nostalgia of calling it winter and like snow and New England and all of that, but no, it's a fall tour.
Gotcha. And I agree. So this one here, it's an Izod Center, which has now been demolished. It used to be Continental Airlines Arena back in the day and had a couple other changes. So this is the first show where all the songs from a studio album have been played at the same show. It included one song from each album and one cover on the set list. So they really, literally, it's like they one. If you look at it, and then you had two song debuts, "Drunken Soldier" and "Belly Full," which these are the obviously because of the song debuts. These were the only two songs that we saw that were new for the fall that weren't played prior to that year. So, what do you think about this, Henry? This fall tour?
Um, I mean, well, looking at the song charts, like when I look at like what's going to come up in a tour, I look at the Almanac song charts, and so if you look at what they did in the summer and then what they play in the fall, if they're playing something a lot at the end of the summer, they almost always play it heavy in that fall tour. Or if Dave's like messing around with something at the end of the summer, you're gonna start getting it heavy in the fall. I mean, there's plenty of songs in here I like. I think I think you should be opening a tour with a song that hits heavy. I don't know if Broken Things does. That's just me. Like stick Seek up in the front and bump that down or something like that. But I mean, it's a great set list. You got Two Step, Watchtower at the end, Gray Street, which is a fan favorite, Nancy's, but also mixing in all the new stuff. Yeah, I mean, it seems like standard fall tour stuff. Don't Drink the Water, Dancing Nancy's, Gray Street. I mean, if you're playing a fantasy setlist kind of game, you should do pretty well in a fall tour, I would think.
Yeah, another interesting thing, Gaucho was played out because it was the first. Was it? What, it was Mercy the first or Gaucho? I think it was. It's Gaucho first.
I think Gaucho came out or was debuted first, but it was only like the difference of a week, I think.
Okay, because I saw that the Gaucho from my first show, 52512, that was on as a bonus track. But anyway, those songs are played a lot in the fall, but Gaucho gets 3 plays. Mercy obviously still got 11, but it's interesting for that tour that Gaucho did get all right, we played the heck out of this in the summer. Maybe it's not, maybe we'll take a little breather there. Zach, what do you think about this 2012 opener for the fall tour?
I was actually lucky enough to be at this show. This was my second show, either second or third. And I remember very distinctly how leaving after it, I thought it was so cool. And, even as I was sitting there, I remember looking at the almanac on my phone and sitting on the train home. I remember the boards were very divided on this show. Some people thought it was so cool that the band just basically decided to do an album show and they thought it was really interesting. But there were some other ones that were like, get that stuff out of here. I just want to hear, I want to hear the cool old stuff. I want to go into the Liberations. I want to hear the stuff that hasn't been played. And like looking back at it now, it was a fun show and it was a relatively fun tour too. But it's not one that really sticks out a lot in my memory.
Yeah, and I think this tour overall had some hot, cold moments. I went to the Mohegan show, but like the show prior to that in Toronto, I looked back a couple years ago and I was like, wow, this Toronto show was like so much better. All we got was the best thing that happened at the Mohegan show was the people tease and I think it was the fish tender, or definitely got Big Eye Fish. But it's interesting. There were some great songs, and there were some songs I was like, oh, do we need, even though it was my second show, I was like, do we need Don't Drink the Water again? uh, I had such awareness back then. It's like, come on. But it was Mohegan. It was, obviously there's a tribe here. The Mohegan tribe they still have that land. But yeah, 2012 was definitely interesting tour. And we got this special moment. All right, so we have the 20. We'll just go through this very quickly, but there's 2 shows that I want to look at, the first and the second. The first one is the first show ever in Asia, in Abu Dhabi, and 0 songs were played for the first time that year. So again, we don't even need to talk about that. but that was unique that they finally had played all of the inhabited continents with this show 10/8/2015. The second show here is Lisbon, Portugal. This was the second show of the tour, but the first European date. It was the lone two-set show of the tour. Again, nothing that we hadn't seen in the States for the two sets in 2015. But the lone bartender was played as in that beginning of the electric set for this tour. So again, we don't, we'll just wanted to show kind of what was going on there. We're gonna go to the 2018 fall tour, and I will say this tour, I was Team Buddy from the beginning. I wanted people to give him, listen. I know there's no violin. Chill. Let's let Buddy learn this music. Let's see what he can do. And obviously, the 2018 summer tour was one where we had Stand Up came back, Bayou came back, and some of the newer songs for a lot of fans who like the older catalog. The 2018 summer tour is probably, again, wasn't a favorable tour, but 2018 in the fall, this is the show we get in Columbus, Ohio. And I wonder if any Michigan fans were taping this show. No, but we have 11/27/2018. I just shorted to Scottsdale. I know it's Value City has the naming rights. And so there were liberations for Kill the King, Sweet Emotion, and Sleep to Dream Her. The first full band Say Goodbye since 9/4/16. First Sleep to Dream Her since 2013. First Break Free since 2016. And we had 4 songs played for the first time that year in any capacity. 1 song that was full band that year for the first time. So let's go to Henry again. What do you see, or what did you see as far as the trends for this 2018 tour opener?
Yeah, I think it has. It's just like going back to 2015, that first show in Asia. It was a bunch of old stuff, which is what I think a tour debut should have a little bit more of that personally, but also playing for the first time in a continent with a set list like that, you should just go to your old standard stuff. Why most people might be in Dubai for a Dave Matthews show, which is still kind of weird for me to understand. But this show has more of that. Like, you never know, although it's sort of a unique song, particularly at this time, like, it just makes more sense to me. Satellite, Don't Drink the Water, like 3 standard songs, sort of like what they were doing more this past year, the last couple of years. I feel like that's been more common recently. Yeah, the Liberations are great. Sleep to Dreamer, I mean, everybody loves to hate on that song, but once you get away from a song for a long time, it doesn't matter what it is to me. It's nice to have something new back. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a fantastic set list, personally. It just has a lot of the stuff that I like, and I think it's a great way to set the tone for a tour debut, as opposed to it being full of, like, the 2012 set list had a lot of things in it that would alienate some of the fandom. Like, what did I just see? I don't think many people would feel at all like this, even if many of these songs were not their favorites. It seems more of like a standard for a tour debut for me personally.
Yeah, and speaking of Sleep to Dreamer, just side note, I think the everyday songs fit this current band great. I was not going to shows in '01. I was listening to Linkin Park nonstop and a little bit of hip hop back in those days. I think the Dynasty had came out for Jay-Z the year before. Blueprint came out in '01, September 11th. I was not listening to D&B. But with that said, as I was
Just interrupt you for a second. I've seen Sleep to Dream Her 6 times, and the last one was 21 years ago. So
wow. Yeah. But I think Sleep to Dreamer, if I had it all, those type of songs fit the band. You don't need, that's one of the albums where you don't need a violin to fulfill most of that stuff. I mean, let's just take Everyday out, the title track, but the rest of that stuff, for the most part, I think sound great. But yeah, a lot of shockers. Another thing before we get to Zach, the ticket prices for these shows were extremely inexpensive, and that's a trend. It just depends on where they go. But I remember Manchester, New Hampshire, I did not make the trek for that, but I regretted it. Albany, I think, had a show as well. I went to Mohegan and got that Kill the King. There was a stone there. It was like the first stone in Connecticut since I want to say 2012. So I think this tour, one of the things I remember, you could get tickets so cheap. And again, people were all, if you had to buy or sell this tour, people weren't expecting this tour to be this great. They said, oh, it's the first year. We're gonna sit this one out and let the band get its whole identity in order, because it was a huge shift. Zach, what did you think of this tour? Did you go to any shows?
I hit a fair amount of shows from this tour, and I remember very specifically watching the set list unfold for this one, and I was sitting there saying, "Okay, this is going to be an absolutely killer tour." Because this show, as opposed to some others, this opener felt more like a summer opener. This felt like something where Dave and the guys had gone into the rehearsal studio and say, "Hey, we want to go and crack out like 5 songs we haven't played in a while. What are those 5 songs? We're going to play the hell out of them." And that's what they did for a fair amount of the 2018 tour. It was a fairly solid tour overall. I remember I grabbed a last minute floor ticket for TD Garden at one point, and that was when they busted out Christmas Song, and that was really cool. And then the only thing that I remember I was kind of weird about was they ended the tour in Seville, and I know that even though those Seville shows can be really special, the shows almost felt anticlimactic to a degree, because JPJ is a very, very small arena. And a lot of one of the more annoying things that you saw was that a lot of people did a similar thing to the Gorge, saying, "Oh, I'm going to plan for the Gorge. I'm going to go down to the Gorge." And you couldn't get tickets for Seville for a while because everyone's like, "Oh, I got to see them in Seville. I got to do this." And then for the day of, there were tickets on the floor. I mean, I grabbed a pit for Under Face that same day, just in the parking lot. And at the end of night 2 of Seville, it felt really great. The MSG shows were really good. Overall, it was definitely way better than I expected.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about that 2018 pair of shows in Seville, I have the audio from, they released one of the shows on for the warehouse, and then I have the taper audio for the other one. But 2016 had the special 25th anniversary show. And so obviously people remember that, and that was a hard ticket to get. But I think in 2018, I mean, you were there, but I just remember listening to the shows. Definitely some solid moments for sure. Obviously, the band was different. They just were getting their new identity. But I think that that Seville, like the ticket prices were low. That I remember seeing on StubHub, like the lowest possible listing price plus fees, like under $10 tickets for uppers. But it kind of was, at least some of the chatter was, listen, you had the 2016 show, and then you have this, and it's still good moments, but not as good as that 2016. Did you feel that way, as far as just like a step or two down from that?
Well, I didn't get the chance to go to the 2016 show, but I do feel like, ending at MSG is one of those things where it's a big power punch moment no matter where it is. It's Madison Square Garden. Ending in, a basketball arena feels a little cheap to some degree. And there was definitely kind of a weird era. I remember that pretty specifically. The band had fun, but it was almost felt to a degree that the band was kind of like, "Okay, listen, like we're ready to get out of here." Because I think, if I remember correctly, that was the 2-nighter where Dave decided to play Christmas Song for 2 nights in a row, and everyone was like, "Really? Okay, I guess."
I think that was the weekend they did it, back-to-back shows there. So let's see, what do we have next? We have the 2019.
Well, Marcus, real quick, Zach, what you were saying about the weird vibe in Charlottesville. I was at the shows in 2006, and that second night, I mean, the crowd, it had a really, the vibe was great. There was this energy there. But then in the encore, this really weird thing happened where a guy ended up on stage, walked past security and was standing on stage looking at the crowd. because it seemed like the security might have just been too focused on the band, or something happened. This guy ends up on stage. Daryl comes out and tackles and pulls him out. Carter's totally pissed. They were going to play. I think What You Are was on the set list. There was something.
That sounds right. Hang on, I'll find it.
Yeah, Last Stop was in there and they skipped it. They went straight to Stay. Carter looked upset. They walked off, and like the end of this tour, at the end of this amazing show, everybody in the crowd was like, what just happened? It got almost deathly silent. It was super weird, and it was the same venue.
Yeah, so it was during the encore. It was right towards the end of ABI. Now I remember it. It was a trench coat guy decided to come on stage. Like you said, they got tackled. Carter got really pissed because they were going to end with the last stop. And then from there, they were like, nah, fuck this. We just got to get out of here. And they played Stay. And I remember that was like, even just reading back from old forum posts from that and people that I've talked to that were at that show, the whole vibe went just completely sideways on that.
It was so weird. And it's just odd. It was the last show of the tour in the same venue that you were describing.
And I'm trying to think, because maybe this is a Henry issue. Maybe he brings this. Henry, weren't you at the show where Carter got hurt during Bayou? That's where we met, right? In 2022. Deer Creek Night 2.
Deer Creek Night 2.
Yeah. You were there. That's where we walked out. I think it was during one of the
Crush. We missed.
Marcus, are you trying to say that Henry brings bad juju to shows? Is that what you're trying to implicate here?
I'm connecting the dots, and we'll let the viewers decide. But this is I don't know. Maybe you need to sit out this tour. I'm kidding. But that's funny that you've seen two interesting moments of Carter being the rare times that Carter's been upset. Were you at the Fly one where he was? What was it? They had the locusts or the
crickets in Dallas in '98. Yeah, no, I wasn't at that one. I was in
Okay.
Charlotte about 3 weeks later.
Okay, all right. So you're vindicated. That would have been the third strike.
Yeah, I think Justin Kaz might have been at that show. I could be wrong. He might have been there.
Henry, what shows are you hitting for this tour again?
I'm doing the first 4.
Okay.
Yeah, Savannah, Greenville, and Charlottesville.
Yeah.
Don't go to Charleston. But there should be a bowl game out. No, that's Myrtle Beach Bowl. No, I'm mixing them up. Anyway, so this is 2018 now. Again, 2019 South American Fall Tour. This is very brief. I did pick up. There was a harmonica player, Gabrielle Grossi, on What Would You Say? Before I switch, though, anything you guys want to say about this Latin America Fall Tour?
It was 5 shows, so I mean, I guess you could call it a tour. I mean, in the Almanac, we have it separated because, I mean, it technically is. We had a lengthy debate about whether the 3 Mexico shows should be part of the summer tour last year or whether it was its own. I don't even know if I think we just decided we had to just pick something because we weren't agreeing on it. I don't think
you picked it, and then the actual DMB social media team put stats out showing the numbers from the Mexico shows and the summer. So they kind of followed suit. I would consider this a Pearl Jam tour. Pearl, they just want to do like 5 shows a year and say, sorry guys, just fight it out for the tickets.
Yeah, but even with these, if I remember correctly, the 2019 shows, there wasn't even really a stopgap. I think there was only like 5 or 6 days between when the actual summer tour ended and then when they decided to head down into South America. And if I remember correctly from most of the set lists from these tours, they're fairly cookie cutter, almost festival like set lists. Like nothing, no deep cuts, no nothing, just kind of fluff. So that way the South American fans could have a little bit of something, seeing as they get shafted every other way.
Yeah. And the fans, I mean, obviously the people that have gone down there have had nothing to say but great things as far as the crowds, the energy down in South America. And they do typically play, wasn't it usually festival? They've had a couple festivals down there. So I know this.
Oh, well, you're talking about the Rock in Rio thing or whatever?
Yeah, didn't they play? I thought, or maybe I have it off, but I know like the crowd. I mean, I've heard people that have been down there for shows have said like the crowds are
Yeah, the
pretty.
River. I don't know if they didn't play it in this tour. There's a famous stadium, the River Plate Stadium in Argentina, where the crowds any YouTube video you watch of any band playing that venue is totally nuts. There's one from AC/DC playing it where the crowd is just ballistic. I mean, it's amazing. I'd love to be a part of anything like that.
Absolutely.
That's the big one in South America,
Yeah.
River Plate.
Gotcha. Okay. And then we have 2022. We have this tour. Now, this is the one. It's controversial. Now, you were in Vancouver, right, Zach, for the opener?
Yes, I was.
And so, 6,200 fans, if that. I remember you were sending me stuff like, "Hey, there's definitely no. There's not a lot of people here." But they start off here. I know. I don't know if our pals from Alberta are on here, but one of the hopes here from one of the Canada fans who goes to the Gorge every year, he was hoping that they would do a theater where you would have like listen 6,000 or even a 3,000 person theater. He hopes that he obviously understands this. There's little hope that they'll come back to British Columbia or Western Canada like as far as like frequently, but his hope was they could move these to theaters and then maybe you have 3,000 fans all cheering, all high energy, and it's a better vibe. But just walk us back from your memories of this show, Zach.
So the problem is, and while I completely agree that from a fan standpoint, especially just the hold isn't there to have them in these bigger rooms. The problem is that this show was treated like, and what it should have been treated like, was a tech rehearsal. It was meant so that way everybody knew that all of the lighting worked, all the new audio stuff worked, the band could get some dust shaken off. And to a degree, it was almost as though the idea was like, hey, we're going to have this tech rehearsal anyway because we have to get ready for this show down in Seattle. We might as well sell tickets to it and help the local fans kind of enjoy it, which, by the way, I'm like 90% sure that most of the people that were inside that venue were Americans anyway. They were just here for the Seattle show. But I mean, that show was a harbinger to the rest of the 2022 tour, which in my very humble opinion is possibly one of the worst tours that the band had done in quite a while. I mean, I understand that they were trying to hit markets that they don't normally hit, but a lot of those shows that went throughout the rest of this tour were almost painful to look at set list wise.
Yeah, and you also had like the Portland show on a Saturday outside of Seattle. Like I know people showed up for Seattle, but it was like, hey, they got Portland on a Saturday. And I know someone in the post-show stream said it wasn't. Maybe that was you, Zach. It wasn't. It was by some sketchy stuff. But
it was in a very, very sketchy part of Portland.
Okay, I think that must have been you. But it was like, wait, there's a Saturday show in Portland, and there's still seats, and I know there's fans who come up from Portland. So there was definitely mixed attendance, but you had fans. I know J-Bo's on the chat right now. He lives in Salt Lake City. He grew up going to a school the town over from me in Connecticut. So he's from Connecticut, found DMB there, but was so excited to just have something local. So a lot of fans got some local stuff, but interesting as far as the attendance out west. This show, again, all we can say is Jimmy thing on Trump. There's a guest, Audrey Ochoa, there, and I love when the band brings in various musicians. But this tour,
that being said, there were some really good guests that did show up for 2022. Say what you will about the quality of the set list or whatever, but you got some really solid guests. You got Mike McCready, you got Scarrett, you got what's her name, Audrey Ochoa, and then you had everybody that showed up for the New York City shows. Yes. There were high quality, high caliber guests throughout most of the tour.
Yeah, the Tonight Show, the late night show guests, back-to-back nights there for MSG, and I felt like the tour started at MSG. You got some songs debuting MSG night 2 like pig. Like, oh, this is the first time. Henry, anything you have as far as this 2022 tour?
Yeah, I was at the MSG shows at the end. I remember really enjoying those shows, partially because of those tour debuts, and they just played a lot, having to play a lot of stuff that I like. And it, it was a little bit longer. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 shows. I mean, that's sort of like just above the bare minimum of what I would call a tour. Like this year is only 8 shows, and that South America tour was only 5 or 6. Hard to really like, thinking about it as a tour and like looking at stats and data. You need like a minimum sample size, to really like draw conclusions about it. At least in my mind, about like trends and like what did they do that tour and what did they not do that tour. So there was a decent amount of shows for that. And also my wife and our kids were with us at Madison Square Garden. It was the first time we'd all seen a Dave Matthews show together with the 4 of us, and flew to New York. And it was just a great time, seeing a lot of friends and a lot of people that they've never met before.
That's awesome.
Yeah, kind of like what John Dick says about what he's looking forward to this tour. That's really, I'm in a place in my life where that's the stuff I'm really looking forward to seeing Zach, at the shows. And I'm still looking for tickets for Greenville. And I'm like, there's a pair for $150 on the floor, and do I do this or do I do that? And I'm like, well, worst case scenario, I'll just get floor and I'll be back behind the board with Zach, So that's, I've seen enough of this band and enough stuff that I know I'll never see again that, I'm into the music and it's great. And there's a lot of songs I want to see, but there's a whole nother side to this band that has nothing to do with the music that, means more and more to me each year.
Oh yeah, and I mean, listen, Jess and Wayne, they came to Guilford with my wife and I, and we had a little mini vacation. I took them around, gave them the geography history of the Kittery, Maine base, which is named the Portsmouth base. So like that's a part of my experience now. 49 shows in is the camaraderie. I will say this again, I have to take these shots at Pearl Jam. The people who love Pearl Jam, they only have 5 shows a year to look at anyway. So there are bands that their world tour is 5 shows. Anyway, I have to take these shots.
Well, my wife's favorite band is Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam and the Beatles were her 2 favorites.
Oh, really?
We've seen Pearl Jam together twice, and we've been together for almost 20 years.
Gotcha.
Because they don't come to Texas and they don't come to Florida, and those are the 2 places we've lived. It's all like up north stuff. So
yeah, Pearl Jam, if you're watching, please tour more. I still haven't been to a show because you guys, I don't even know how to give her if you're good or bad live. Because anyway, it's a frustration of mine. They never you'll get, Mike McCready has some, or we'll have this in, or other people will have their solo show. Tour, guys, or don't tour anyway. All right, let's keep it moving here. So we've seen what happened in the previous years in the last decade, and what do you guys think this 2023 fall tour will look like? Let's start off with Henry.
Well, again, looking at the song chart from this past summer, like what was happening at the end of the tour. Like, is there something that Dave was playing, like a Dave solo kind of thing he was playing around with? There wasn't really, there's not a song that the band was kind of like testing a little bit at the end for the first time. So, you're going to get it. I mean, I would expect, because we're in an album tour, we're going to get more of the same. We're going to get Walk Around the Moon and all the major hits from the new album. Maybe they're working on some new material. They might road test something that they've not been playing. But like song like You Might Die Trying really only played once in the last 10 or so shows at the end of the summer. Probably not going to play that much this tour. But things like, Madman's Eyes, Looking for a Vein, Walk Around the Moon, we're probably going to get the Brick House thing, Jimmy thing, that whole thing again. You know, I'm done trying to figure out what I think this band is going to play. Just when you think you're sure what's going to happen, all of a sudden you get three Liberations and a Dave solo in the encore that nobody's ever heard of. So, I mean, as long as I get my favorite songs and all my friends are there as expected, happy and healthy, I'm you know, whatever. Doesn't matter to me.
And some things I noticed here. Seek Up only played 3 times in the summer, but it got some plays here. It ended in they had a play in the Gorge. The other thing, I hope I'm wrong on this. We talked about it, Henry. I was supposed to make a video, but life gets busy. There was not a lot of Big Whiskey for this summer. Actually, I believe there was one less Big Whiskey song play for this summer than the entire Caravan, which was obviously a condensed tour. I hope that trend stays the same, because I think that what this summer showed is when you reduce Big Whiskey, it's been played out nonstop for fans like me who joined in the 2010 or 2009 to present model of this band in various forms. Obviously, they've changed some things, but it was overplayed in my opinion. They cut down some of that stuff. They brought back a lot more things, and the new songs, to me, shine bright, much brighter than Come Tomorrow, even Away from the World, which has some great songs that grew on me. I just felt like this was in my 3 albums of premieres of live albums in my 11 years, this was the best album tour where the album songs to me were fine. I love It Could Happen. I know some people don't. I like some of the other stuff like Madman's, even though it's played a lot. Monsters. I still want to hear It Could Happen in Monsters again. So, Zach, what do you think?
Well, to Henry's point, I think we do have to like tamper expectations that yes, this is very much still an album tour. So we're still going to get some fairly heavy rotation. You know, well over 20% of the shows are probably going to be songs from Walk Around the Moon, which is fine. I mean, I think that the band kind of found a nice balance of saying, listen, here's the new stuff, but we'll still give you a fair amount of the old stuff. I personally think that especially if the guys have been practicing a lot lately, and you know, I know they've been busy. Dave's been gallivanting all over doing private gigs. He was just in New York last night for the Hall, so he's been busy getting himself back into performance mode. I think there's still a possibility that we could still see a couple of cool bust outs for the fall. Am I thinking that there's going to be a ton? No, maybe like 1 or 2, but we'll see. You know, it could be something like 2018 or 2019. It could be nothing. So we'll have to kind of wait it out. And I think that the tenor of the tour will be pretty firmly set by that first show down in Savannah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Marcus, to your point about Big Whiskey and the song performances, this past summer was the first time since Big Whiskey came out that there were more song performances off the album Stand Up than Big Whiskey last summer. And normally it's Big Whiskey by a country mile over Stand Up. And they totally dialed that down. But no, I think Zach is right. You know, we're gonna know on Tuesday how this is gonna go down.
Gotcha. And I will say the songs they brought from Stand Up were incredible. I felt like if you're gonna play a bunch of stand-up songs, I could trust them in 2023. American Baby and True coming back in full force. You Might Die Trying, to me, is one of the songs that, in my opinion, still never seeing Leroy Moore live, that has actually evolved. I can't say other songs when I listen to the audio from before my live show appearances that this song truly evolved. It's adapted and maybe it's gotten better in other ways, but you can't replace some of what Roy did. But to me, You Might Die Trying, it sounds so great with this band. And I would put it, you know, I would argue it could go head to head with some of the earlier era versions of that from 05, 06, 07, and early 08. So, and then again, I just think they reduced Bayou and they brought out more of the other stand-up songs. So really interesting stat there that there's been more. We want to get to the next thing here. Ask the Almanac, or really just Henry, but he's the delegate from the Almanac. So I did get some questions here, and let's take a look here. So we have Kit Kat Jam from Reddit said, "Are there any plans to make the Almanac data available via an API similar to what's available on fish.net?"
We haven't talked about it. And anything's possible, but whenever we talk about changes to the Almanac or something like that seems pretty big, I think the problem is we've gone so far deep into the way that we've made the site, and by we, I don't really mean we, I really mean Matthias. The way the site has been made, it would just take so much time and effort and dev work and people hours that frankly we just don't really have, and we're not either willing or able to spend on people doing that. So I don't know how much it would take to do that with the existing data, but we haven't talked about it. And if it's going to take a lot of time or a lot of effort or a lot of money, and frankly, it'd probably take all three of those, very unlikely.
Okay, and just for people at home that may not know, what's an API?
I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm the technical expert. Email us at dmbalmanac@dmbalmanac.com and ask. But it seems like it's a way to enter in a string of like a data request and have it spit out what you're asking for, as opposed to it just being web-based and you're clicking around and you're looking at information that it's presenting to you in a web-based page.
Okay.
It would be a way of entering like I don't know the language that you would actually type this out, but telling it, give me all the shows that Carter Beauford did not play. And then it would spit all that data back out at you. I don't know. Maybe there's a way we could do that, but not. Also, a part of the way we want the Almanac to be used is like people using it at shows.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go to a show and you look around and there's people who use it there, and like, or just sitting at home, the novice user. I don't know if we would put a whole lot of time for a tiny amount of people that would want to use it in that way. I doubt it.
Zach, are you familiar with?
I mean, I'm tangentially familiar with what APIs are. Basically, it's a common set of data calls that can be made. It's similar to like how when during the show we get the live set list that's done via Ants Marching. Essentially, they use a data scraping tool, and it's able to go and get certain data from the live set list that is put up by Dave's crew, and then from there that gets forwarded off via Twitter using different calls to say, hey, I need you to post this, and then this is okay, done. Because it's not just, there's not some poor schmuck at Ants Marching that's just sitting there constantly refreshing the DMB Road app, the DMB Road page to go and see that. It's something that is constantly done. It's a script. So it's fairly similar to that. But the idea of like using the data or being able to access the raw data of the DMB Almanac and using API calls in order to sort of build a better mousetrap. I mean, to a degree, the information within DMB Almanac is proprietary and kind of the way that they run it. And they've won awards for it. Henry and Matthias would be the ones to kind of talk in regards to that. But that's sort of all I would have on it.
Okay.
And for the record, Zach kind of pinch hits for us a little bit to enter in information in the Almanac for us. I wouldn't say he's like deep in the weeds on Lover Lay Down outro solos like people like me are, and he's not writing code like.
Hey, listen, I get added to the group chats every so often. I end up getting into some fights. We've already had a couple of those this past summer.
You're in the family now.
Right. So next up here we have Some Devil 27. He's on the chat right now. He's actually a moderator here for my page, and from Instagram he said, "What song that is listed as defunct has the greatest chance of ever being played again?
So we have a list of defunct songs. It's about a dozen, maybe 15. I don't know if you could pull it up, Marcus, but it's the ABC Jam is the first one.
Okay.
Number 30. Well, I'll kind of just go through them and why I don't think it really is relevant for most of these songs. So number 36 is now kind of like Every Day. Like once they started playing Every Day, 36 kind of died. 41 Police is now number 41. After Her is now Satellite. Any Noise is now Say Goodbye. So there's Be Yourself is on the defunct list. Yeah, Don't Burn the Pig is now Pig. Gas in the Fire. I mean, it's a short little thing. Had some lyrics once. Like, I don't know. Maybe that could turn into something. Hold Me Down. That was a Dave solo in July of 95. I think it was only played 3 times in the Carolinas area at the end of July 95. Leave Me Praying and Weight of the World are now, basically Don't Drink the Water. Mansfield Jam. I mean, a jam that was played and during a year. And maybe they recorded it in a session and we have no idea, and it's turned into something else. Round and Round was a Dave solo in 07. And then Route 2 was basically a sound check jam in December of 93. There was a snowstorm. They were late getting there. I think this is in Virginia. And it's just a sound check where they're just sort of playing around. That's never coming back. So like there's really only a few songs on here that really ever have a chance of being played in some version of its original form that is not turned into something else. And which of those is a total coin toss. But most of these are never coming back. Please stop yelling After Her at Dave and Tim shows. Dave doesn't even know what that means. Most fans don't know what that means. It's not happening.
Now I was at the show where the Lovely Ladies came back, and there was some kind of chatter. Is this number 30? Did you guys put it as 36? It was kind of like very number 36 S. They didn't get into
What was that, man? That was Mansfield.
Yeah,
14?
6, 7, 14 in Mansfield.
Yeah.
So obviously it was not the full thing that they do. It just was kind of more the Lovely Ladies were chanting, honey, honey, come and dance with me. And they were, but I mean, I hope Be Yourself never comes back. Route 2 was that in Virginia? Because when I think of Route 2, I think of my trek across Stevens Pass. I know it goes across country, but I think of going through Stevens Pass towards the gorge from Seattle in a crazy.
Sorry, it's Williamstown, Massachusetts.
Oh, Mass. Okay.
December 11th, 93.
Oh yeah, because Route 2 cuts. Okay, so it was, all right. So that's what it was, and I can only imagine back in those days when they had to drive through some of those various treks with the tour bus or the van versus having to fly. But very interesting. So let's see. We'll get out of here.
But to kind of go on to this, I think the better question is, because I think a lot of people get really confused, and maybe Henry could kind of make it a little clearer for folk. I think that what Some Devil, and they're free to chime in on the comments once this goes up. I think more so what they're asking, because defunct and unreleased songs are different. My understanding is the way that the Almanac has kind of looked at things is that a defunct song is something that it's basically transferred to something else. There was an extenuating reason as to why this thing existed, versus the unreleased songs, which there are, a couple dozen of, that either had some short life. One could even argue that Be Yourself should be in an unreleased song, but it turned into something else, which is that stupid Burka Durka 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 from Come Tomorrow or whatever. So, I mean, Henry, could you kind of maybe pivot towards that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, unreleased is a lot of songs that they play a lot. I mean, just looking at the list of songs that are I would say common, maybe not played a lot, but songs we all kind of know, like number 40, Bismarck, Blackjack, Blue Water, Break for It. I mean, we're in the Bees, Butterfly, Crazy Easy, Death on the High Seas. get in line, that would be a great one to get back. They only played that fall '94. I don't know how familiar y'all are with that tour and those. We have almost every performance of that song because it was just in one tour. Good Time. There's another unreleased song. Hope for Tomorrow. I mean, there's lots of stuff we get there, and almost certainly we'll have something played this fall. But defunct, I guess. Good point, Zach. Defunct almost implies that it's not coming back because it almost doesn't exist anymore. Like it's turned into something else, or is no longer, or was never even a thing really. I don't know. Again, I don't know what our like definitions of defunct songs are. I don't know. Maybe there's a place in the Almanac where it defines what they are. But yeah, defunct means it's not really going to come back because it died. Like it isn't a song that's going to be played again. So, and then as you say, like the unreleased songs. Sister is an unreleased song, and we get that one, maybe not a lot, but it's fairly often.
Yeah. I love that ABC jam though from the Batson sessions. That is, I love that. It's like, why did you come on, play it? All right, let's get to some other questions here. So we have B Embry 24 from Instagram. I guess I tried to edit this, but he said, can you add international shows to the states and venues count? So I don't know, maybe is it
I didn't quite understand that one either. I don't know if that means like in the My Almanac stats. I mean, it counts
or maybe
venues as venues. I guess maybe it doesn't count.
No, it counts towards the travels. I mean, even like the stuff that I've done in Mexico, like it shows stuff for Monterrey, it shows stuff for Guadalajara, it shows stuff for Cancun. It's all there. You just like, I'm not sure what the
I'll try to follow up and then get some more clarification there. The next one here was, when is management gonna get it right and give you total say over the live tracks DMB live releases? So full control where you guys determine every live track's release.
I mean, if they want to, we're here and we have opinions about things and shows we would love released. I mean, the fact of the matter is there's a ticket stub that was used in the art on one of the live releases that we have on our site. I don't know where else they would have gotten it from. Maybe they just downloaded it. I don't know. I mean, they have reasons. Surely they have reasons why they release certain shows at certain times on certain dates, and it has nothing to do with the set list. They probably aren't really into that sort of thing. These are marketing manager people that it's not like Carter and Dave are sitting in a room trying to figure out what live release to put out in February. I just can't imagine it being anything like that. So,
and if that did happen, this band would be so miserable if they worried about those things. And I think that's actually a good thing. They don't care. I think that's where you get archivists if they decide to. Again, that's why they, but what's funny is just a real quick side note. The last release from 2000, Gundarina, which was another Ohio release. Some fans want a current DMB era live tracks. It was very interesting, and I'm one of those fans too. But initially, like during the 2018-2019 period, I was one of those people. Come on, let's give us the classics. We don't need a Deer Creek from 20. Like, listen, I know they had some fun times, but I want a 01, a 04. Like, and it's funny because now that the band has really hit their stride in this current era, one of the biggest. Hey, and I know there's been warehouse releases. There's been some other ways you could get shows from this era. Sirius XM has every Friday. Obviously, there's pros and cons to that because those are pulled and then right away there's not that editing in after post production that's done. But it's funny because a lot of the push was fans want something from now, and in the 5 or 6 years ago, it was no, we want stuff from the old days. We don't want this show where we have this band not playing. You have a electric guitar playing over Dave's warehouse parts. Now that's subsided. That's gone away. There's a better sound balance with this band, and they're having fun. And it's interesting to see that change of a slight change. There's still fans who want this classic stuff. There's still fans who always wanted new stuff, and there's fans that just in between. But just interesting observation.
I'd be interested in hearing what Zach's thoughts are about this concept, and that I don't really care what the band releases because we have most of their shows taped anyway. Like, yeah, it's not a soundboard with like a lot of reverb and stereo mixing and stuff. But I mean, if you want to hear a show from July of 2013, we have them all. So like, I'm more interested in the older stuff that we don't have any tapes from, that has unique things that like we would want to hear. Like one of those get in lines that we don't have a taper because it's in freaking North Dakota or something in 94 or something like that. And just maybe at some point in the future, I'm kind of curious how many of those shows they sell anyway. And are they making any money off of this? Or is this like, what is the point of like these live releases other than to like have a record collection of stuff? But if it's just about the music, I mean, you can go to Dreaming Tree. You can shoot me a text message in Facebook Messenger, and I'll give you whatever. Like, we don't really need them to hear this music unless it's old stuff that wasn't taped. So, like, maybe there's a better way of sharing more of this live music as opposed to releasing something that we already have audio from a couple or 3 or 4 times a year.
I'll say this though. Not to cut you off, Zach, but this fan base, even me in some cases, this fan base doesn't want a certain sector. Like there's some people that they have all these tapes. There's a good part of the fan base, even older, younger, in between, that doesn't want to have to get a lossless download and they want something on their phone. They want something instantly, and you order the live track, you download it digitally, or you get the CD, you get the vinyl, and you play it. Even some of the videos I put up, I'm like, oh man, this video is bad. The audio is not good. And I'm doing some multicam, and I'm very, very into it. But people are like, some of the videos that aren't my best work of recording have more views than some of the stuff. Like, guys, you don't want to see this one. This one was the best. So I think this fan base, they just, in people in general, humans in general, they just want it as easy as possible. So Live Tracks does that.
Absolutely. But to Henry's credit, and one of the things, especially inside of the Almanac right now, is the crew there has done a fairly good job of making sure to keep contemporaneous notes on shows that we don't have audio for. And even in terms of like the general DMB ecosphere, if you want to just call all shows that some form of Dave Matthews entity has touched, we have some source of recording. It may be a cell phone recording in some instances, or it may be, a little Shure mic that someone was able to sneak in that they bought at a Radio Shack for $10 or something. But we have a plethora of audio that's good quality, that catalogs a lot of the band's existence for the last 30 plus years. And that's thanks in part to people like Henry and old DAT tapers that were really pounding the pavement in the late 90s to 2000s. And especially in that regard, like, there are great tapes out there. I understand that everyone, wants, oh, well, we want the board, we want this, we want the full, the full mastered mix that's going to come from the warehouse down in Seaville. I get that. But to a degree, well over 90% of shows have some form of record. Where it starts getting sketchy is those early formative years, like the early 91 to like 94 or 95, when things are still kind of getting off. I mean, even Henry, you and the rest of the crew have been like tracking down old newspaper clippings to find shows, even as recently as like 2 or 3 months ago that were like, wow, we had no idea that this show ever existed, and it was through like newspaper archives. So to that degree, like I know that this is a bit of a sidestep, but like there exists a great quantity of like really good audio and good stuff for any fan to listen to from all realms of the band's history. But in terms of the live tracks, in terms of like just the sheer amount of stuff that has to go into a live tracks, there's a lot of things that go on with it. You've got to make sure that the show was recorded well. People think about, how, oh, well, it can't be that hard. Everybody does this, or there's, Pro Tools mixes now. That's great. Running a multi-track mix back in the 90s was not easy. Even like some of the older DMB lives, all those were board recordings that they were able to clean up in post and make them presentable. And those were the best of the best bunches. And even as we get further on, like those tapes degrade and like they have their own archiving system, and it goes through their archivist that sits there and says, oh, hey, this tape was really good. Maybe there's something here. And it goes through the full minutia of, quality control, mixing the whole bit. It to go from the idea of we should release this show to a live track CD showing up in your mailbox that you've ordered from Music Today takes a lot of work. And to a degree, I got to give the band credit for putting out 4 archival releases a year that are fully mixed and mastered and usually sound really good. I got to give a lot of credit to them for that.
Yeah. Or think about this. What about your warehouse membership is $35? Yeah. What if it was $99 for a premium subscription where it was basically the DMB hub and they just streamed, you could stream shows, and maybe it wasn't the entire catalog. Maybe they alternated each year what was available. Maybe they added things here and there and mixed it around. And then you were just able to stream from your phones from the DMB live stream app as part of your premium service. Something like that, where I think if we just got more, if we got more music out versus these 3 or 4 releases. Zach's right. They sound amazing. I mean, and some of them I think don't sound amazing. I mean, some of them, no offense to the people that do that work. As Zach says, in 93 board recordings are I know what
turn it to dust as we speak.
Yeah, it's not great, but I don't know. This, if you can't tell, this is a passion of Zach and myself, and getting more of this music out there. I mean, I got a box of tapes sitting here that I work on all the time, and I'll have more tapes come in a couple months, and this is what we do. So, coming back to the question, I don't think it'll ever happen, but I think if the people on the inside retire or go do other things, or they're looking for some other people to do this, there's professional services that obviously can handle it, but there's probably some sort of liaisons between the technology folks who would literally do that work for them and the fandom people who know it well enough to be able to help them make good decisions, where if nothing else, they'll just communicate with those kinds of people. I think folks like Zach and myself and some others in our circle are probably people that it would behoove them to talk to whenever that time comes.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you guys for answering that. Now, Chris Loretz from Instagram says, what does Dave say at the start of the last stop? And he kind of said it, I think more of like a fun guess what it is. Like, what is he saying?
Well, at the end of Rapunzel, it's Leroy, I think, who's talking on a phone to somebody. But then when the last stop actually starts, Dave does this sort of ad-lib stuff. And if you listen carefully, there's a lot of just scatting sort of jabber in the background. And surely that's just taking audio sessions from the song recordings and just taking bits and pieces. And if you listen to it, it's just random gibberish just kind of thrown around. There's a part where he says at the very beginning, he says a line of something. I don't think he's saying anything personally. I think it's just more just audio session stuff from that song that Steve Lillywhite just sort of put together. But gotcha. I don't know. That's my guess.
All right, let's see. We got this one here from Messi Gallo from IG. He says, "What happened to the Dewey Beach show in the early '90s?"
Yeah, so I looked this up. It's July 29th, 94. There's a venue called Bottle and Cork at Dewey Beach, Delaware. And the notes in here sort of seem, they don't seem like something that I would have written, because the formatting of the text is not how I would have typed it in, like the way the colons and the quotations are. But I don't know. It's possible that I copied and pasted it. There was a tape, says there was a taper there. He tried to tape it, but Jeff, the sound guy, was not letting anybody tape the show. Something about the place being small and having subpar equipment. He didn't want any bad tapes getting around at this point. So this was right before Under the Table and Dreaming came out. This was the summer after it was recorded. It was being mixed and mastered and all that stuff. It came out 2 months later. So that's not a crazy idea to think, look, we don't want bad sounding tapes coming out of these songs that were going to sound really, really good in 2 months. I mean, that kind of makes sense. Then it says there's a different version of the story from the Minarets mailing list. So tapers were given board patches, but more than an hour into the show, someone with the bar unplugged all tapers and confiscated the tapes.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know if I totally believe that. If somebody comes to, and I think I can speak for Zach on this one, if somebody's going to come to my recording device and like take the memory card out of it, they're not going to be able to do that. Like I just can't imagine somebody at the bar taking tape. Like that's not a thing that I ever imagine happening.
No, and that's not even something that I could imagine happen. Like even like beyond Dave and all that kind of stuff. Like taping has been around for well before Dave, and we're talking at least what we just had the anniversary of the first taper section from the Grateful Dead, which was officially started back in the 80s, but they've been taping since the early 70s or so. So like audience taping and stuff like that was more than common at that point. And I've been lucky enough to tape a bunch of shows. I've only had one instance where someone tried to actually physically touch my rig, and they were very, very lucky that both he and I did not end up outside of the show getting kicked out. I'm telling you, I take significantly more weight to the first story versus the second, because I'm telling you that second one would not fly with anybody.
All right. I think that's it. Thank you guys for coming on, and we'll definitely, if time permits in your travel schedule, we'd love to have you on and even maybe talk a little more about some of these things behind the scenes, as far as your passion with the, not only this, you guys tape other acts. Zach just did John Mayer for some shows. Henry does a bunch of different bands as well that you tape for. He taped the 1975, which is a band. I'm guessing. I know of people who go and see them.
Don't say that too loud, Marcus.
Dude, that band's amazing, Zach.
No, I'm saying, how many tapers
No,
are there?
no, I'm not talking about that. The band is amazing. The tape sounds great. I'm saying don't publicize that this is the one that taped it.
Oh, no. I
I don't
didn't
care.
hear that.
What are they gonna do? They don't know who I am.
But yeah, I know some people who like that band and have seen them kind of grow. They were just at, I think it was last year, 2 years ago, they were at the Fenway MGM Hall here, just up the road, where the Fenway owners decided I thought Red Sox fans hated the Yankees, but now their ownership is the Yankees, essentially Steinbrenner 2.0. Anyway, I got to throw that shot in there. Red Sox, Yankees pay their players. Yeah, Red Sox do it more now, y'all. Anyway, thank you guys for coming on. We'd love to pick your brain if possible. Again, I'll check in with you guys closer to these shows. And if you guys are available, we'll have you on late at night. But thank you guys. Take care. And like I said, we'll hope to hear your opinions on this tour.
Thank you, Marcus. We'll talk to you on Tuesday.
All right.
Thanks, man. See you guys. See you on Tuesday,
Later.
Zach.
See you Tuesday.
All right. So we'll see you next Tuesday, guys. And let me see. I know we're running over. This whole stream is longer than the shows, but I love sharing my love of this band with you guys, and thank you guys for working through the technical difficulties. Glad I had this headset trying to see. I'm gonna be having more content because I did buy a baritone guitar, and I am having so much fun with it. So much fun. It is just a great exploration. I only can imagine Dave picking up one of these. And I've learned so much about some of these berries that come out, and the history of Jerry Jones baritone guitars versus the Dan Electros. I have a Dan Electro right here. This thing has been awesome. I'm gonna see if it. I'm gonna see if it'll let me play. If not, don't worry about it. One thing about the berry is it is, first of all, it's fun to play, but it being in between a bass, you get some bass notes that you can hit that Fonz is hitting, and you get the stuff that Dave does on electric or Tim does on electric. But it's fun to kind of play that space between, and essentially you can do a little bit of both. And some of the sounds that I've gotten off of this in the last couple of days is a lot of fun. To just actually, let me see if it'll actually play. If it does, I can close out the show in a loop. See if it's gonna play. We'll see. Where's my cord? All right, let's see if you guys, let me know if you guys can hear this. We'll see if it'll let me. Actually, I'll do that at the end. If it doesn't play, we'll just close out. I did want to go through a couple quick hits here. There's been a lot of different things since the ticket show that we did. The first main thing is just want to send our thoughts out to the family of Aaron Spears. Rest in peace. He was a drummer. Now, I know some very talented gospel musicians here in Hartford, Connecticut, and actually one of them played. He's known Aaron. He knew Aaron since the early '90s because he was in playing gospel music. But Buddy was a friend, and so was Rashawn. They posted tributes to him. But this was a very close friend to them. He played with Usher. He played with Ariana Grande, and Buddy had played along both of those. Rashawn here and there had gigs with both of those acts as well, so they all were connected through that space. Buddy knew Rashawn through these plays with Usher and Ariana, but just a talented drummer and gone too soon. So we just want to say rest in peace to Aaron. What else happened? I did have some other stuff. We had these Halloween posters. We'll spend more time on that potentially later. I did talk about, Carter had his birthday. I think he's 65 now, but happy birthday to Carter. I love this Halloween from the Haunted Hollow recording studio. And I think, to me, what's emblematic of Before These Crowded Streets, some of you guys have your vinyls. I'm waiting on mine to come next week. That warehouse shipment late. I didn't want to pay. I don't want to pay for the faster shipping, man. It's already a pretty penny to ship it there. But anyway, just the darkness of a song like Halloween and like that pain of Dave proposing to a woman and getting denied, and that frustration is it's just powerful. And you compare that to the happy stuff the band does, but the darkness and the light is what's powerful about DMB. And I love both sides of that they bring to the stage. Happy birthday to Carter. Neil Peart and Carter are two great drummers. Rest in peace to Neil Peart. But like the fact that these guys are doing what they do in their 60s, I'll be the first to admit, I have not seen every top-notch drummer in the world, but Neil and Carter stand out far above the other talented guitarists in their own right. I mean, not guitarists, talented drummers in their own right. But there's just something about, I saw Neil at the end of his career with Rush, and obviously I've seen Carter for the last 11 years, and those are just two great acts. Carter was on Neil's drumming, one of his drumming videos, which says a lot about what he thought about Carter. What else? We opened up the no. I had to shoot shots from center ice, and I missed. I had 10 shots. If I made 2 of them, there'd be no you and me to close and no Bayou to open. But I made 1 shot out of the 10. That's why we opened with Bayou. But I will say this, and I'll talk more about it throughout the next couple of weeks. Playing the Bayou riff, playing it in person changes my whole dynamic of what I think about Bayou. I still don't want it at shows. The beginning part, I've always loved the jam, but playing the Bayou riff is incredibly fun, despite what it sounds like when you hear Dave say it. And I can kind of see why Dave likes some of these songs that he does play more frequently on baritone because they are extremely fun to play. And so there you have it. Let me see if this. I'm gonna see, guys. Thank you guys for watching. If this does not work, I may just end the stream or try to get some music on to close out. But I'm gonna try to see if I can play if my baritone will come through, but I will lose audio here. So just bear with me one moment. I'm gonna see if this will work here. All right, so it sounds like you guys were able to hear that. Is that correct? I saw an audio signal come through, which is wild. It's letting that through. It's letting me play the bass. Could you? All right, I'm gonna close out the show with a little bit of a jam. Thank you guys for watching. It's your boy Constavis34. We will get all the audio set for this upcoming tour. I will be back on for Tuesday, Savannah, and we'll continue to push through Greenville, Seaville, and the rest of the tour. I will be at the Mohegan shows, MSG Night 2 there. But thank you guys for watching the stream. I'm going to end off with a little jam on the Berry. I hope this isn't too loud as well. I hope it's not too loud. I will keep the chat on. If it's too loud, I will turn it down a little bit. But I'm gonna jam out on the Berry live through the feed, and then that'll be the end of the show. So peace, or stay around.